Shall we start? Good afternoon, UN delegates. We live in our world which have changed very much because of three reasons. First, urbanizations, increasing world population, and also industrializations. This phenomenon has raised problems, especially in environment sustainability, which means our world ability to meet our current demand, but at the same time ensuring the sufficient supply for our future generations. Today, we can easily find a lot of people find difficulties, especially to meet their primary needs, such as food, water, and energy. Throughout these presentations, we will highlight the importance of environmental sustainability, and then we will cover four major problems, pollutions, which I will be described for you. Okay, we are water emissions, biodiversity loss by organizing, and then non-renewable resources by my colleagues. And also we have this one is our targets, which integrate the principle of sustainable development into country policies and program and reverse the loss of environmental resources, reduce biodiversity loss, halve by 2015 the proportions of the populations without sustainable access to safe drinking water, and achieve basic sanitation. Achieve by 2020 a significant improvement in the lives of at least 100 million dwellers. Now I want to stress the importance of solving the pollutions first. Pollutions in broad dimensions can be divided into three major areas: soil pollutions, air pollutions, and water pollutions. Now, I will start with the soil first. Undoubtedly, soil is one of the important elements in our lives because plants, as the basic source of the food chain, are lived in the soil. However, our land has been contaminated because of the industrial waste and also the pesticide and fertilizers. These populations and contamination thus basically damage two uppermost layers of our land, which is O horizon and A horizon. In this case, it means that the plants will not get sufficient nutrients and sufficient minerals for them to thrive. And then if this trend continues, we can see infertile land will occur. According to the statistics released by FAO, our world has lost 30% of our soil fertility. In other words, infertility can create a food shortage. In other words, there will be a decreasing in our supply of food, but the demand will still keep increasing as our world population keep increasing. Now, our world has 7 billion of people. After food shortage, it will create a famine and poverty. Why? Because the increasing food price, many people cannot afford to buy food price, and then famine and also poverty can happen. This study shows that 952 million of people live in hunger in 2012 because there's not any food shortage. So you will ask, what is our solutions towards these problems? Basically, we will do a research and development which we cover two major aspects. First, we will search and find more environmentally friendly fertilizer and pesticides. And also, this one is some pledge which we have covered, which can contribute to the decreasing soil pollution problems. This one is plant grasses, wildflowers, and hybrid flowers. And we believe we can find another plants in the future to deal and solve the soil pollutions. So we will use our money wisely and achieve the maximum good in the future. Aside from the soil pollutions, there also the air pollutions. Air pollution especially come up into two categories: acid rain and also greenhouse effect. Let us focus on the acid rain first. Acid rains is accident is harmful for our environment, because when the acid rain appears and it touches our soil, it means that our soil will become acid. And when our soil becomes acid, it will deteriorate our trees and our forests. This will disrupt our food chain and then disrupt our food supply also. At the same time, it will create our water become acid. So this point will be more discussed by my colleagues Gabriela. And also greenhouse effects. Greenhouse effects leads to extreme weather. Extreme weather such as drought and flood and other extreme weathers. So what is the impacts of extreme weather? Extreme weathers such as drought and flood can create at least 3 major problems. Hunger and famine. Why? Because less food production, and also disease because of lack of clean water for drinking, public sanitation and personal hygiene. And also poverty is also inevitable in this case. Okay, so what is the solutions? As we all know that pollutions come out because of the emissions. So we will invest our money to develop the alternative fossil fuels sources, which is more environmentally friendly, such as hydropower, wind energy, geothermal energy, and solar energy. We believe that we have to do it now because energy is the most important factors, because we have to consume energy as we continue to survive in this world. After we heard about 2 kinds of pollutions, water pollutions will be introduced by my colleagues, Gabriela.
So aside from the 2 pollution that my colleague Adrian has mentioned, there's also water pollution. Water pollution basically is caused due to 2 factors. First of all is due to acid rain, and secondly it is because of irresponsible dumping from industries waste. Now, water pollution has caused 1.9 million of deaths of children due to chronic diarrhea they suffer. Now, this chronic diarrhea will then lead to malnutrition because they cannot absorb the nutrition they eat in their food. This will then reduce their ability to resist infection, which will mean that they will be more often infected with diseases. All of this will then lead to impairment in cognitive development, which we know is very essential for children to gain knowledge. Now, aside from pollution, water also faces a water depletion. Although 70% of our world is covered in water, only 3 times out of it can be used because it's in form of fresh water. And according to United States Geological Study, 33% of fresh water is in form of groundwater. Groundwater is very important in areas where surface water is limited. However, 30 to 68 cubic miles groundwater is lost annually. Now, why we need to conserve groundwater is because if groundwater is brought up to the surface, then it will experience evaporation, which will then, through the water cycle, it will then land in, through the raindrops to the contaminated soil, as my friend has mentioned before, and the pure and fresh uncontaminated water will then be mixed with the contaminated water. Now, why water is important? Let's take America as an example. As you can see, 37% is used for irrigation. If water is to become very scarce and very limited, this means irrigation will be very costly, which means in our food supply there will be an increase in price and a decrease in food supply. Now, the freshwater depletion is a problem. It creates a domino effect. For example, in our environmental, it will increase the sea level and it will reduce the freshwater supply. Thus, all of this means to the society is that there will be an increase in our living cost in terms of increase in cost of water and in terms of increase in gaining food. Furthermore, this increase in living costs will push more people below the poverty line. More people will experience hunger, and death is inevitable. Because why? More people will have less access to the food, and more people will have less access to the water, which we know is a necessity for our lives. Furthermore, there will be a possibility of war and social unrest, because according to United Nations Environmental Study, it is stated that 200 river systems in our world is divided and is shared between 2 or more countries, which means if water becomes a problem, then the division of this water will be a problem as well. So what we have done from the past few years is that we have installed water system in Brazil, we have built up water towers in Burkina Faso and introduced rainwater harvesting in Sri Lanka. And what we wish to do in the future is we want to have a joint mutual conference between nations to monitor water supply and sanitation, which means we want people to be able to, we want to encourage them to always report globally what is the water supply and how it is going on, and we want to help them and support them so that they will be able to plan and manage their water sources well. Secondly, we would like to do further research and development as we have done before. And previously, we have done in Kenya, our research and development has resulted in chlorine-diluted system, which has helped a lot of people's life in Kenya. They can access more clean water. So, aside from water, soil, and air, there's also one type of renewable resource that will be discussed by my friend Shirley, which includes plants and animals.
Biodiversity is very important because millions of people rely directly on it for their livelihood and often survival. However, now our species was north in a very fast speed for 4 problems. The first is that because of the global warming, the sea level was rise and many lowland area was covered, so the plants there cannot grow. And that is not the end. Lose the food results of the plant and also lose their inhibit, so the animals will also die. And the second problem is that because of the climate change, and some species cannot stand the weather now, the plants will definitely die, and the animal will be better. They will try to migrate to other places which are more suitable for them to live, but it is not easy. So they still face the danger of extinction. The third problem is overfishing. You can see from the chart that about 70% of fish species on the world was depleted or fully exploited, and only 3% are recovering. What's worse is that there are still many illegal fishing in the world didn't be recorded. For example, the catch on Kosia Island is 12 times more than legal limit. The third problem is that deforestation. Why deforestation is a problem? Because about 90% species in the world are found in the forest. And according to the statistics of Food and Agriculture Organization, we have already lost, there are already 80% of forests lost for human development, and we are still keep losing forests now. About 13 million forests, 13 million hectare forests are losing each year, and what disappear with them was the lives of species. So what will this cause? Actually, it is a chain effect. The extinction of species is the disruption in ecosystem, and when the break in the food chain occurred, we will lose more and more species. That will cause we humans lose food resources, both plants and animals. That will then develop into a social problem: poverty, hunger, and malnutrition. So that our life expectancy will decline. What can we do to help this problem? The first things like what I have mentioned before, many species they disappeared because of the climate change. So we have to follow the solution what my friend Adrian just mentioned before to solve the greenhouse effect. And to solve the overfishing and the deforestation problems, we have to work with governments to limit people's overuse of resources and to exploit more results. The other things we can do, like build conservation areas for animals, and we can also do search and to develop how to improve possibility of reproduction in animals and plants, like what China do today for the panda. What I and Gabriela just said are all about the renewable resources. India will then tell you something about the non-renewable resources.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Now I'm going to introduce about non-renewable resources exhaustion. The definition of non-renewable resources is that natural resources which cannot be produced, grown, generated in a short period of time. And when we talk about non-renewable resources, these things among them, we are already consuming them every day. And one of the most hottest topic every day is being discussed and worried about is the oil. And about oil problem, how urgent it is, though we are discussing it every day. Let me tell you a little interesting story to show you how it's urgent. And by using these two fundamental factors, one is total reserves and another one is annual output. The statistics is withdrawn from 2008. And by the calculation and prediction, we can find that Asia and East Europe will face a depletion respectively in 2020 and 2017 by using these two fundamental statistics. And at that time, which means maybe less than 10 years later, this situation will force the other parts of the whole world, South America, Africa, Middle East, East Europe, and CIS countries, to increase their volume of production. And then, even regardless of this increase, we can calculate out that 2029, East Europe will face depletion, which means before 2030, the whole world will face the oil thirst. And subsequently, the series of other areas of depletion we can predict. And maybe 2063, America face depletion is already impossible because previously mentioned, these are all other areas are relying on it. Then maybe 2040, we will say the whole world will say goodbye to oil. And after that, we all know nowadays, maybe after 80 years or maybe 18 years later, the whole world will suffer from a kind of big increase in the oil price. Let's see the statistics. Only in this 1 decade or 2 decades, we can see how the price is shoot up in maybe by 11 times, and this is not seems to be stopped yet, and it will constantly continue. And if this happens continually, we can predict that many producer and manufacturer they cannot afford the price of the oil, and then they have to reduce their production, and that will cause a lot of unemployment, which means poverty and social unrest. Then a lot of producers and manufacturers have to bankrupt. Then the economic crisis is not far from us, and many countries will try to use war to solve the problem. Though nowadays many people are searching for the approaches to solve the problem, but even the oil, only one oil, not regardless other kinds of non-renewable resources, is not solved yet. People are tending to use the substitution, but are these substitutions really useful? Because they are restricted by geography, mineral, global food supply restriction. So all these kinds of solutions are unrealistic. And what is really applicable is that maybe we can use controlled thermonuclear fusion, but this still need a lot of money to be the requisite to do the research development, and furthermore to integrate the policies and the principles, and urge the whole international society realm to do the cooperation. If we cannot solve this problem, and samely we cannot solve other kinds of problems about metal, non-metal, natural gas, and among them some of the non-renewable resources are really not good. For example, coal is the leading cause of all sorts of environmental problems. And as we know, human is a kind of species which has to constantly consume. If the materials for consuming is used up, it's like the basis of the pyramid of the humanity is crushed. Then what's the point of discussing about other kinds of questions? And before our presentation ends, let's come to the question and answer session.
Are there any questions regarding our presentation?
The previous slide, the one on progress, I think it shows the slide. Organic slide, the one that has the heading progress. And then you have some numbers. Okay. Installed water systems in Brazil, then you have 36 million. 36 million what?
At least 36 million of people can access this water.
Okay.
Now.
So
all of the numbers of people here are the numbers of people that can access water right now. And as you can see, people can also save $31 per month in Sri Lanka because of the progress that we're making today.
Okay. So that means after you have installed water systems in Brazil, 36 million people have access.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the same with this Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, I think here you mentioned metal and natural glass. How does natural and metal glass fit in? I don't follow that argument there.
Sorry.
You know, you talk about metal and
Natural gas.
natural gas. So I don't quite follow that part. Yes. You know, where you have, this graphic. Yeah, this one.
Okay, this is a kind of definition and a classification of the all sorts of non-renewable resources.
Okay.
And some of them are very endangered. And
So you are saying that metal and minerals, natural gas, and
non-metal.
non-metal minerals, so all
Yeah.
these are depleting.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they will lead to social problems.
Yeah, social problem that you mentioned before.
Okay, then so what's the solution to not having all these?
The
So if you
solution
don't have
about
all these, then the solution is this thermonuclear thing, is it?
it's about the energy. It's about the energy consuming structure. And for example, I previously mentioned about oil. The oil, though we cannot maybe eliminate all the use of it, but we have to find the substitution. But when the substitution cannot be so effective and useful, just like those three, which are unrealistic to cover all, but they can cover part of them. What about the rest of them? The rest of them still are the majority. To cover the majority, not only majority of the oil and also the metal, non-metal, natural gas, we have to adjust the use of different kinds of resources. But some are still during the research, and some still need money to do the scientific development, and some need
But
money.
I don't understand this metal, mineral, and